Welcome back to our series on 5 questions for ministry planning. So now that you know what you most want to accomplish and who you need, today we're going to talk about something really exciting. Where are the guardrails? Hey there, where are you going? Hey, watch out! Whew, thank goodness that guardrail was there. Wonder if guardrails could work anywhere else. Once you know what you most want to accomplish and who you need, it's time to figure out how you're going to do what you do. In other words, it's time to make the rules. This is always fun because who doesn't like rules? Wait, what? Oh, that's right. No one likes rules. Rules tell us what not to do. Rules kill creativity. Rule keeps us tightly controlled. Rules can even suck the joy out of your team and make those with their own ideas gradually lose heart. On second thought, don't make rules. Create guardrails instead. 5 questions for ministry planning. Where are the guardrails? So what are guardrails exactly? Guardrails are a way to invite your team members in to be creative and give input within the boundaries that keep everyone in alignment with your mission. In other words, it's creating a set of guidelines for your team so that they understand where you're going, how you're getting there, but they also have room to be themselves. Guardrails create freedom within structure. Put simply, guardrails are awesome. So how do you set up these awesome guardrails? Well, it starts by identifying 4 things. The first thing you want to think about are your non-negotiables. What rules, yes, rules, we couldn't completely get rid of them, but what rules do you have for your ministry that are set in stone? Non-negotiables include things like safety rules, church policies, things like that. Don't assume that everyone will know these without being reminded. Write them down first. Then you're going to take a look at your core values. Now this is where guardrails gets interesting. Every organization should be able to identify their own core values. Quick check, do you know yours offhand? I hope so, because your core values tell the world who your organization uniquely is. They're the basis for your organizational culture. When we assume that everyone's on the same page with core values, then we set our organization up to lose its identity. I can't say this enough. Define your core values, memorize them, then share them with your team, often. They will be the cornerstone for your guardrails. Let's look at an example. Let's say you're writing guardrails for your special needs ministry. One of your core values is meeting kids right where they are. This means that your ministry understands that many of your kiddos learn differently and may be at a different developmental level than their peers. So if you're only using the general classroom curriculum, you likely will not meet their needs. In order to meet them right where they are, you're going to need to use adapted curriculum. So a guardrail that may be set is this. Our ministry chooses Bible stories that are concrete and not too scary to teach our objectives. This matters because many children with special needs may not understand abstract thinking the same way as their peers, or they may become overwhelmed and act out when presented with a scary story. But by setting this guardrail up front, parents can feel safe dropping their child who learns differently off into your care because they know what your ministry is all about. And they trust that you will create guidelines that will help your team meet their child right where they are. Number 3, you want to remember to protect your resources. Know what resources you have and where they're needed most. This way, if someone has a great idea for your ministry, but it uses resources that are needed elsewhere, then that's something you want to think about before saying yes. And lastly, consider others. Be aware of how the decisions your ministry makes impacts the rest of the church. Remember that none of us live in a bubble, and every decision we make for our ministry impacts the ministries around us. So part of your guardrails will be looking at what matters to other leaders too. Now once you've thought about these 4 things, then you're ready to write the guidelines for your ministry goals. These guardrails will give your volunteers a structure that they can work within, but also leaves room for their own ideas to help make your ministry even better. It's kind of like those guardrails that kept you on the road earlier. You didn't fall over the mountain, but you still had room to turn around. Freedom within structure. Whew! I told you these were awesome. But there's one more thing before you go. Think about a time when you were on a team. Have you ever felt uncomfortable because if you made the wrong move, you were afraid you'd get in trouble? How'd that feel? What about a time where you felt like the options were so general you didn't know what to do next? How's that? Now think about what those situations could have looked like if your team leader had given you guidelines that left you some room for you to be you. What would have those guardrails looked like? How would you have felt? And what would have happened to your team? Thanks for joining us. See you next time we talk about something we all need to learn, how to say no. And how do you decide? See you soon.